Yep.
Take it away here.
Sure. Good afternoon, everyone. So I came in here about 15 minutes ago, so I'm not quite sure if you guys have been like fully chummy up and like talking with each other. I saw you've been working on some projects together. But when we think about connection, have you guys had a good day of connection today?
No.
So that's a no. That's a no. Okay, cool. All right, so we're going to be talking about networking, which is connection, right? And we're going to dive into some pretty cool tactics and strategies that can help you. Is that fair? All right. I'm an extrovert, so I'm going to be engaging with each and every one of you in some way, some capacity, and I look forward to your responses. All right, let's rock and roll. Let me tell you a little bit about myself. Over 2 decades ago, I started a company here in Orlando, Florida, called Clean Slate Janitorial Services. And the reason why I started that company was I wanted to understand what it's like to be a janitor. And I said, I'm going to go on an experiment to learn. I was working at Hartford Insurance Company. I was kind of frustrated, wanted to do something different. Took my wife out for dinner one night, and I saw a gentleman who cleaned the table in front of us for my wife and I to sit down. And he wouldn't look at me as he did it, and he began to walk away, and I said, "Excuse me, sir, thank you." And he asked me, like, "Why would you say that to me?" I said, "Because you didn't just clean the table, you prepared a place for my wife and I to have dinner. So thank you." The guy lit up, skipped over to another table, started wiping it down and looking at people, and I got chills through my body, and I said to my wife, "I want to do that again." Now, what I meant when I said I want to do that again was, how can I pour into someone in a short period of time in a way that I get a response like that over and over again? I decided I wanted to be a janitor. So I quit my insurance job, became a janitor. My friends thought I was crazy. My wife did too. But I told her, if you would just give me a chance to just experiment with this for a little bit, I'd appreciate it. And she trusted me enough to say, go. 20 years later, still in the field, started a company with that, started several other companies, have become an author, speaker, all that cool stuff. It's never been about cleaning for me. It's always been about connection to people. Connection to people fast. So when we think about networking, the question is, how can we, in an hour's time, which is typically the networking period of time that we connect, how can we walk into a space and connect with people in a short period of time, not just at a transactional level, but deeply? With me so far? When you think about when you attend networking events, tell me, what is your greatest challenge walking into the room? Anyone? You're shaking your head like you saw yourself doing it.
The right conversation, or like finding the right opportunity to enter a conversation or begin one.
Okay, all right. I appreciate that. What else?
Finding a common ground with somebody.
Finding a common ground. Entering a conversation, finding a common ground. Okay. What else? I saw you thinking.
Right, it's the confidence to go up to someone new you've never met.
The confidence to go up to someone new. How many of you feel the same way? Yeah? Okay. All right, cool. Okay, I'm with you. Anyone else?
Find the right person to talk to.
Find the right person to talk to. Okay. All right, let's peel back the layers on some of those things. By the way, I'm going to tell you something. If you see me doing a little dance or whatever, I'll tell you about that why later. Okay, no worries. Okay, so when you talk about having the confidence, the right person to talk to, right? The right conversation to be had, right? What do you think you're missing when you walk in the door? Now, we understood the challenge, but what do you believe you're missing when you walk in the door?
My own attitude.
Your own attitude. Okay?
Or right attitude.
Or the right attitude. Okay. All right. Anyone agrees with him? You're by yourself. All right. What else? Huh?
Plan.
A plan. Okay, excellent. So the right attitude, a plan, all right? So we're talking about the confidence and what kind of conversation to have. The right people to talk to. Okay, what else? Anything else? You're thinking. Please.
Kind of like a selfish mindset. You're thinking more about yourself than the other person.
Okay, you're thinking more about yourself than the other person. And you're thinking about what? What it is you want?
Yeah. What can I take from this?
What can I take from this? Oh, check you out. I hear you. All right. Anyone else?
A purpose. A purpose.
A purpose. Okay. Let me ask you this, because these are some really cool answers. Do any of you think about all of that when you're going to a networking event, or do you just like load up with your cards, walk in the room with a plan of like, I need to get some new business, or I need to close something? What are you guys thinking about when you're walking in the room? Please.
Who all is in the room?
Who all is in the room? Okay. And are you concerned about whether or not those individuals who are in the room are aligned with what your reason for being in the room?
Yeah,
Okay.
kind of what do they have to offer and what do I have to offer them?
Okay. Anyone else? This is all good, man. Let me tell you a quick story. So this is about the legs prop thing that I got going on. Okay, so when I was a kid, 7 years old, I suffered from poliomyelitis. You can take off the myelitis part. You know what polio is? Okay, so I was paralyzed. Okay, I grew up in the Virgin Islands. I was born in Puerto Rico, grew up in St. Thomas, U.S. Virgin Islands, right? So, as a 7-year-old kid, not able to walk, not able to sit up, not able to speak, my eyes were crossed, pigeon-toed, couldn't swallow. I was really, really messed up. My father, they took me to Puerto Rico to the Children's Hospital. Now, you can imagine a 7-year-old kid in the hospital, brand new, all these people speaking Spanish. I don't speak Spanish. I'm feeling out of sorts. For several days, over a week, I'm bound to my bed. I finally got to the point where I started feeling some sensation in my legs, got excited, and I was able to finally sit up, finally sit into a seat, into a wheelchair. I was so happy that time when I first got to get into a wheelchair and wheel myself out of the room. Okay, my parents aren't there, it's just me. I'm rolling myself down the hallway. I look to the left, I look to the right. I see kids in their rooms, on their beds. Remember, I don't speak the language. And I can't even talk. Kid climbs down off their bed, jumps into their wheelchair, they roll on out. Go to another room, they come on out, jump into a wheelchair. And all of a sudden now, we're wheeling ourselves down the hallway, slamming on the brakes, sliding around, going back in the next way, slamming on the brakes, sliding ourselves around. I never spoke a word. It's all I could do. How was I, at the age of 7, able to connect with people, kids, young kids, who speak another language, in a way that we created a wheelchair band, that we were just up and down the hallways? And I didn't say a word. What do you think was the connection point? What do you think? Like what made that happen? Share a common ground. I think somebody over here has talked about looking for common grounds, right? What else? What else do you think was at play that made that happen?
Eye contact.
Eye contact.
Nonverbal communication.
Nonverbal communication, right? Okay. They came down off their bed though, jumped into their wheelchair. All of a sudden I was leading. This is a form of networking, right? And they're following me, doing some dangerous things in the hallway, right? All without me saying a word. There's a human component to what happened to me as a kid. We're all alike in some way, shape, or form. All alike. And we all have a common goal to connect. Being in a hospital by yourself or with your parents coming in, it's not your bed. You're out of sorts. It's kind of like walking into a room. This is not your space, not your office, right? But there's a common thread that pulls us together. And then when we do that nonverbal thing, or we connect on a vibe, all of a sudden, people are like, yeah, I'll follow. If it was just about the transaction of, like you were saying, I'm going in there being selfish, thinking, what can I get out of the room? I mean, what's that about? If you wanted to get something from me, let's just say our businesses align, all right? And you were only focused on the transaction. Okay. What do you do, if you don't mind?
I'm a contractor.
Contractor. So what would be a good referral for you?
I'm usually looking for subcontractors to work with me.
Okay, so you go out, you get the jobs, you hire some subs, they can fulfill the jobs. Yeah? Okay, cool. All right. So I say, all right, I can do the job for you, and there's going to be a transaction, okay? If the only transaction was going to be something monetarily, meaning I do the work, you pay me, I pay you, there's no other conversation. Are you happy with the money that you've made?
I mean, yeah, but we also have to work together, and we have to do more work. I want to create a team to be the most efficient going forward.
Okay. I'm looking this way for a reason. So what else can you do with me to even build that team?
I work with you so that way we're all successful together.
But what would you need to do though? Like, how would we even make that connection meaningful?
Go play golf.
My guy, I like that, I like that. Yeah, that's one way, all right.
Form a relationship,
How do we do that though?
connect.
Yeah,
Ask
personal.
for feedback.
Okay, feedback, form a relationship, yeah, okay.
Personal, like, compare, like, what you guys have in common personally.
Okay, all right, right?
Find out the interest of that person. Try, like, again, maybe it's golfing, maybe it's a fishing trip, maybe it's just a lunch or a beer.
So, let's backtrack now. So we're coming through the door. It's a room filled with people we don't know. How do we start that type of dialogue?
Well, usually, like Corey said, I think you go to the bar first. Those are the you know what those people are about. No, I'm joking. I don't know. I mean, I think it's as you work. I don't know. I'm an extrovert too, and for some reason I usually find that I don't know how to explain it. It just kind of happens. Like you're just kind of in conversation, and you maybe you saw something on LinkedIn, or maybe maybe you already know they're efficient.
Okay.
Maybe you already know that they're somehow or another a kid plays a sport.
Okay.
Maybe you find out their kid plays a sport. Your kid played the same sport. Like, I can't explain it. Like it's just I think for me, like it's a natural. It just happens.
You being an extrovert.
Extreme, yeah.
Okay, okay.
That doesn't
Doesn't come natural. Okay, okay. Are you an introvert?
I'm an introvert. I've been called a learned bee,
Okay.
so I know when I need to not be an introvert.
Sure, sure. So how do you navigate those waters?
Generally, like I usually use self-deprecating humor.
Okay. So you throw yourself under the bus?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Just go back. Like, I ask questions. Like, what is it that you enjoy doing? Like, do you have a family? How many kids you got? Are they playing any sport? Like, be personal. Make them feel, or I don't even make them not just feel important. I want to know about you. Like, I'm interested in you.
So you're genuinely curious.
Yes.
But what about the person who's looking for a sub? Who's just looking for a sub? Not saying that that's what you'll do, right? But just asking.
Same thing, right? Like, I mean, you want to develop a personal relationship where there's trust.
Okay. Trust.
You
Yep.
know each other. You kind of know how each other work together. You build on that continuously.
Somehow it seems as though you are like several steps into a conversation, into a relationship. I just walked in the door.
Smile. Eye contact. Two the easiest things to do.
Okay, okay. Sometimes there are people who are gathered in like a circle and their backs are turned to you. Somebody here mentioned, like, how do I even break into that conversation?
And I'm like, I'll be like, hey,
Awkward.
did you just say something about me? I'll get right in there.
I look for in that group.
Sure.
Is there somebody in there that I already know?
Okay.
Maybe can help make that introduction.
Okay,
to me?
okay.
And if there's not, I'll go around and smile and try to look for body language. And if they're going to reciprocate my smile back,
Okay.
then I can jump into a conversation.
Okay, okay. Do you guys see any of this being helpful for you in your situations? Do you? It's kind of like when you're driving on I-4 or driving on the street and you see someone who is navigating and you can see that they want to get in, and it's like you slow down, you pump the brakes a little bit just to let them in, right? You could have stayed forward, right, and let them figure it out themselves, but because you noticed, you allowed them in. Sometimes when you're in those circles and you know that there's somebody coming in the room, the human thing could be to just kind of like open up a little bit, just to create some kind of space for that person to know it's okay to come in. It's all about shared experiences. This morning my daughter was asking me on the way to school, she says, "Hey Daddy, is it lawful," she's 10 years old, "Daddy, is it lawful for someone to back into your driveway if they needed to turn around?" She's asking a question because there's many times I'm taking them to school and it's like, "Daddy, I forgot my shoes." Okay, and I have to back into the neighbor's yard to turn around. So she was asking that this morning as we were leaving the neighborhood. And I told her, no. I said, it's kind for someone to allow you to back into their driveway. I mean, you know, it's a shared space. So is the room when we're networking. It's a shared space. So how can we be open and be kind and be human to other people, knowing that they may be going through the friction of like, I don't know who to talk to, I don't know what kind of conversation is being had. That's one thing. You talk about being curious. 100%. All relationships start off by someone sharing some measure of curiosity. I want to get to know you. I don't know much about you. But there's often times that people just want to do business. I might walk into a room, someone sees me, and they're coming with their cards. And I would do this. Talk to me. And they're like, oh, the card is, it's crazy how their hand is still out with the cards. How you doing? I'm like, I'm doing well. What brought you here today? And you can see that there's like syntax error in their brains, right? They're ready to just conk out because they don't know what to do. All they know is to give you a card. I don't know you. I don't know you yet. I might like you, but I don't know yet. We just met. Talk to me. It's difficult, man, because this day and age, a lot of people just don't know how to have a conversation. 2 weeks ago, someone stole the license plates off of one of our company's vehicles out of the parking lot. My manager calls and she's like, "Gerren, we got a problem." I took a deep breath, said, "Tell me." She tells me what it is. I'm like, "It's okay. We'll figure it out." Something told me, "You figure it out, Gerren." So I went to the police station to give a report. As I'm doing the report, I'm in this interrogation room. The police officer is telling me to write down my statement. He's talking to me. I do all of the work, and then at the end I said to him, because I'm being curious now, I said to him, I have some friends who've been in the military, and they said to me, anytime someone who's been in the military and they're shifting to become a civilian, it's a very difficult transition for them because they just don't know how to interact with people. What's been your experience? He begins to talk. He's like, "Oh, I used to be in Afghanistan and I used to be a part of the bomb squad. I'm not in the military, but I did some service over there." And he begins to talk and he begins to smile. And then he starts telling me about his kids and about his ex-wife. And he started telling me about a whole lot of things. And he's like, working here for the department, it's crazy to understand how people whine about all these silly things. Like I get calls for silly things. "Look at what my wife did to me." And he's looking at the guy like, "What? Is this why you called me over here?" Whereas over in Afghanistan, we were dealing with some real problems. And then he does this. And I'm like, oh, he was recording a conversation. And then he begins to tell me other stuff and talk. For 45 minutes, me and this officer are talking in this interrogation room. And then at the end he says, "Thank you for talking to me." Nobody wants to talk nowadays. Everybody's just into their devices. What does that tell me? It tells me that people want to connect. And there's a belief system that we're walking around this earth with, thinking that people don't, or people are standoffish. But people want to connect. Maybe it just starts with a question of being curious. Whether you're introvert or extrovert, if you could just start the conversation with a question, ooh, things can take off and you can get what you want. Not only that, I would have spent X amount of time with you building a relationship. I'd probably jump online, I'd see your LinkedIn profile, more of the relationship. If I saw that you were on a podcast or you did something else, or I saw some of your work, more of the relationship, so that when I pick up the phone to call you, I have something to say. Versus if you just gave me a card and like, hey, nice meeting you down in Orlando at the networking event. Where do we go from there? There's nothing else to talk about. But if I found out about your kids, or someone else, or a song that you like, or the clubs that you like to use, and I saw something out there, I could take a picture and be like, hey, I know this is random, but I thought about you when I saw this. Remember our conversation from last Thursday. There's something to build upon. Is this making sense so far? What comes to mind? Anything. What comes to mind when you think about your relationships, your networking, what you've been struggling with, whether you're being selfish or not, whether you're the person who hands out the cards the most, what comes to mind with this perspective? Anything? What could you do differently?
I think you brought up a good point with our phones. In an era where you think we'd be the most connected, we're actually the least connected. For me, being a woman in the construction industry, I tend to be a minority. In one way that I've kind of found the ways to open the door. I don't like golf. I don't like fishing, and finding ways to connect with people.
Yeah.
Is whether it's on LinkedIn or something else, like use the phone as a tool. Hey, their kid does play soccer. Maybe next time I see them, I'll somehow bring that into the conversation, or find little loopholes to find a way to connect with people.
Yeah. I've heard of some folks who say, I'm not trying to find any more friends. I have enough friends. So their belief is when I go into a networking environment, it's all about business. It's not about relationships. It's all about business. But then they say, like, I want to build a professional relationship. Well, there's the word relationship in there, right? So it requires some measure of vulnerability. I share a little bit of me. You share a little bit of you. But what do you think is happening? Why people don't want to share? Why people don't want to be vulnerable? What do you think is happening inside our brains?
You're thinking they don't care.
Okay? We're thinking that other people don't care. It's all about me, all about me. What else?
Uncomfortable.
Uncomfortable? What? Meaning I'm uncomfortable to share me with you?
Or just even have conversations sometimes. It's people seem to be uncomfortable with it.
Mm-hmm. It's like, oh, you're sharing TMI, a little too much information. Okay. What else?
We think they're going to ask too much of us.
Okay. Especially when we're not willing to share, especially when we're guarded. Yeah? How about?
It can be viewed as a weakness, like, well, now they know this about me or that about me, and they think I'm going to give them this for free or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
My experience, that's not actually the way it goes.
Okay, right? So we learned that that's not, but it's a belief that we're using and we're carrying, and we all make decisions based on our beliefs. No doubt about it. There's always, the belief is always at the bottom of things. I come in and I share with you my story, being paralyzed and all that stuff, and the reason why I dance is because I remember, oh, my legs work, so I feel good at any moment's time and I don't care, I just dance, right? But I share that, I gift that to you, because who knows, there could be someone in this room who suffered from polio, whose family member suffered from polio, somebody who they know that's been paralyzed and now walks again, or not, but they can find hope in me, in my story, right? There's something. I think we undervalue ourselves. We don't believe that our stories actually matter. Like, your experiences matter. And you can't tell me that we are on this earth at the same time in all of history. We're on this earth together, in this room together. And the only reason we're here is for us to do business, to do work. I am not that cheap. Stop it, right? Neither are you. When I look at you, I see stories, right? Experiences. I could make assumptions or I can just ask. And all of a sudden, now we're talking. We're talking about all kinds of stuff, all kinds of cool stuff. I love it when I travel with my family. I love to go to different places and just kind of like connect with the local folks and just learn. It brings a smile to my face because I see a person and all of a sudden there's a whole story behind of them. And now I get to live vicariously through their stories. Whew. That's cool for me because now I come back to the US and I can now talk to you. I can share something. This person that I met, that person that I met, here's how they live, different from us. But when I was a kid, my father, every summer he would take us to, almost every summer, he would take us to the Dominican Republic. We had family down there, right? But he would take us there, and for a whole year, we would have saved our allowance. And as you get into the rental van at the airport, I still remember it so clearly. As we pull off from the airport, he would stop in the middle of the road. Kids would run up to the car, and he would open the door and say, give. Give what? Give them your allowance. Dad, yo, all of it? Give. Oh, we gave, and we gave, and we gave. And it came from, it started like begrudgingly to then like, we'll give. To here. To I can't wait to give. It was connections. And he was teaching us that, yo, your story matters to somebody. And who knows? By them experiencing you, they get to look at Americans probably differently. Who knows? You can be the ambassador for something, someone, but nobody knows until you tell your story or share it. And if you're waiting for someone else to share theirs first, now you're allowing someone else to dictate your superpower. I don't like that. Like, I want to know your greatness. Because the fact that we're seeing each other, that means that there's something that I'm supposed to get from you, or for you to share with me. It's vice versa. We're here on earth together at the same time. I'm giving you a different perspective when it comes to networking, man, because a lot of times we just look at it as a business transaction, and it's much more than that. It's you and I. The human you, the human I. We're connecting. So let's get curious about each other. Making sense? Different. But when you adopt this type of perspective and you walk into spaces, everybody's a friend. There's no competitors. If you're in the same line of work and you walk into a space and you believe that you're the only person that's supposed to win, that means you're coming from a state of lack. There's not enough business out there for me, so I got to take all that I can get. Versus when you walk into a space and you see someone who's in your same space, there could be collaboration. Because now there's abundance mindset. I'm like, there's so much business out there for us. How can we partner to do something? And I get it. There are a lot of people out there who are competitive. They want to win. I was just looking at a commercial with the quarterback for the Ravens. And he was, okay, slow down now, all right?
That's a 480.
As a Dallas Cowboys fan, I struggle, okay? All right, yes, I know. Yay, I'm hoping, but we have an 82-year-old owner who's kind of on the spectrum. All right, so when I listened to him, he said, they asked him a question, hey, do you hang out with the quarterback from the Buffalo Bills in the off season? And he said, hang out? I'm trying to beat him. I'm not trying to be his friend. I mean, when we retire, we can laugh about it. But now, I'm a competitor. I'm trying to beat him. I respect that. I do. I get it. In our world, we don't have to compete. Like, there's enough business out here for all of us. I've walked into rooms and going to bid on a job, saw someone over there, a different company, and I know that they specialize in spaces like the one that we're in. And I'm listening to their questions, and again, for me, it wasn't about cleaning, right? It was mainly about people. But I'm like, oh man, he's asking such great questions. Are we ready for this job? And I'm saying to myself, like, we're not ready for it, but we're here. And I got to the point where I'm like, hey, listen, hey, I wish you well on it. Go for it, do your thing. I'm gonna tap out. And I tapped out. I don't even remember the jobs right now. I don't even care. They want it. Yay! The customer's happy, they're happy. I've been trying to figure it out. There's enough business out here for everybody. But if you connected from a state of abundance, who knows what we could be talking about? Who knows what we could be doing next week? I'm in the janitorial space. I met another gentleman in the janitorial space out of New Jersey years ago. This is probably 08, 09. People could say that we're competitors. Just last month in December, when my wife and her friends went to New York, this gentleman picked up my wife and friends and gave them a tour around New York. We've only known each other online. But all these years, we've kept in contact, just, hey, how you doing, man? How's business? The whole nine. He took my wife out and her friends safely. Their first time in New York. Collaboration, partnership. There's enough business out there for everybody. So much so that when I spoke to him just last night or the night before, he says, hey, Gerren, when are you coming to New York, man? I'd love for you to come out and just work with me. Like, we could go clean some floors, we could clean some restrooms. I'd do it. I don't care, because it's not Orlando, it's me out of Orlando, so I get a new experience. I'm partnering with somebody that I spoke to and met back in 08. It's just cool stories, man, cool stories. So when you walk into a networking event, what kind of cool story are you after? I want you to think about it a little bit differently. What comes to mind? Anybody? How much work do you think it'll take out of you to even do this? And it's okay if it will.
I think that maybe getting into the conversation and connecting with someone and making a point is good. But then I find in networking situations, it's even harder to then, once you establish that level of connection and comfort, to then leave it to go find a new one during the same networking event. It's you want to stay with what you just built. Because it takes work to obviously do it all over again. But it's your time as well, so.
Yeah, but you've got in some reps, though. You got to get in some reps so you can start getting more and more comfortable.
Yeah.
That person may want to talk to somebody else too. They may not want to be stuck to you, although they're loving the conversation. And we can take the conversation outside of the networking event too, right? And this is the reason why I talk about how do we build relationships fast. I want to share something with you. This is something that I do. It's called Lens. It's a framework that I use. Every time I walk into a space. LENS. The L stands for look deeply. Okay? So when I see someone, I look at them. You're rocking the Atlanta hat. I used to be an Atlanta Braves fan back in the day. Back in the Caribbean, we had limited channels back in the 80s when I was growing up. So it was either Atlanta Braves or the Chicago Cubs on WGN, right? So I picked the Braves, Dale Murphy, all those cats, right? Loved them, right? So even from that, I'll find a way to connect to you, right? Why you like Atlanta? Why you rocking the hat? Are you from Atlanta? I mean, do you like the Braves at all, or is it just the A that you like, or the green that you like? That reminds me of Boston Celtics green. You a Boston Celtics fan? There's so many different things that I can probably pull from that and just talk and connect with him, figure something out, right? Look deeply into someone. Man, you remind me of X, or da-da-da-da. Just lean into that. The E in Lens stands for engage authentically. Now, within the first 5 minutes, you learn 2 stories about me, right? Where I was from, what I struggled with, what I suffered with, the whole nine, why I like to dance sometimes, or at least just move my legs, right? You learn my gift of that to you. For some of you, it may fall on deaf ears. For some of you, you may be able to relate to it. Whatever it is, I'm putting out as much information to kind of just catch somebody's ear. But I'm sharing it with you, not because I'm worried that you're going to maliciously use it against me. If I have given it to you, there's no power for you to use it against me, versus you finding out. So I share because I want to say I don't care. I care. I just share because I'm trying to figure out where do we connect? What do we connect on? But that's me engaging authentically. I'm only able to do that because I have engaged authentically with myself. Because the question in your head could be well, how do I do that? I have sat in my own mess. I've sat in my own stuff. I'm the guy that might take I do take them, solo adventure trips where I find a minimalist house, right? And I go there, no family. I don't have to call my wife, don't have to check in with my kids, don't have to check in with the business. I just go there and sit in my thoughts. If in the middle of the night I say I want to get up and go somewhere, I get up and I go. If I go on a hike and I don't want to turn around, I just keep going that way until I decide I want to turn around. No responsibility. But I get to sit in my stuff. If I'm triggered, I get to pay attention to that. Like, why am I triggered? Like, what's going on, Gerren? What's going on in your mind that makes you feel the way that you feel right now? A lot of people run from that. But it's because I've done that work of sitting with myself, engaging with myself authentically. Now I can engage with you freely, authentically, gift to you. And we can have dialogue and converse any old way. I don't mind. I'm not afraid of my past. I'm not afraid of what's going to happen next. I just engage because I realize like there's so much more that comes out of those kind of conversations. The next one is nurture. Nurture your superpower. You can say nurture your growth, nurture your superpower. When I engage with people and I ask questions because I'm curious, I learn so much about you that you don't even notice within yourself. You're walking around here like a powerhouse, and you don't even realize how powerful you are because you're probably just focused on work, focused on the kids, or focused on home, your disciplines, right? But me outside of you, I can see your greatness. Oh, and when I do, for me, I love to tease it up. Like, did you hear what you said you just did? Did you hear how last year was for you? Yeah, I know, if you're in real estate, it might be struggling right now, but did you notice what you did? I'm like your cheerleader, your rock star. I tease it up. And in the S, I let you see your potential. I don't tell you what you can do. I tease it up so much that you get to see your potential. And I stand right next to you and look. Like, what do you see? What do you see? Oh, and together now we can celebrate, right? I do that quickly. And all of a sudden people kind of like the police officer are just talking and talking. And I respect that conversation. I hold it sacred, so it's not like I'm just sharing your business. I just wanted to just like light a firecracker under you so you could see how powerful you are, because you are the greatest asset ever. It's not the business that you run or work for. It's you. Because like I said, if I gave you the money, but I never built a relationship with you, how do you feel? You don't feel as great. You don't feel as good. My brother and I, we have a business in the Caribbean. It's a fuel distribution company. And my brother for so many years, okay, so let me say this. I grew up in a household where my father was a diesel mechanic. And we had a diesel store, so we sold parts to boats, and my father also fixed them and stuff like that. And my father wanted us to get into that. He wanted us to carry on the business, but it wasn't our thing-ish. My brother tried, and it didn't quite work out well. My father died, wishing that his sons would have just carried on his business. So my brother and I said, why don't we create a business that still carries on the marine industry? We got into fuel. My brother just sent me a picture last night saying growth, showing our several trucks, fuel trucks. And he's like, man, I wish Pops could have seen this. My father's been dead over 7 years. My brother is still trying to prove something to my father. And he isn't even here. He won't even see it. How much energy is he putting into that versus just exploring and watching his growth? I'm just like, bro, look at what you've been doing. Focus on that. He's dead. Not trying to be morbid, but my father's dead. Focus on that. And sometimes many of us are walking around not realizing how great we are. Does that resonate with any of you? Be honest with you. This is part of being vulnerable with yourself. Do you find that you attach your business success to your worth or your value? Right? And I'm here to tell you, outside of all of this, like, you are the greatest asset. Your heart is beating right now, and you're doing nothing. Except just sitting in here and talking, listening to me, whatever. Heart is beating. Your hair is growing. And mind you, I can grow hair. I decide to shave it off. I just want you to know that, okay? But all of this is happening within you. You're breathing. All of this stuff is happening within you. If I say wiggle your toes, you can wiggle them. Just like that. And the business is really the thing that is dictating your worth and your value? No. No. So when you walk into a room, a networking room, knowing that you are the greatest asset, like you are powerful, like walk in there, man. Walk in there and share yourself with the world. Share your experiences with the world so people can connect. That's what people are after. Especially when it comes to networking, man. It's not about the business transaction. We can do that all day, but we weren't born to work. The work, the business, it's the lab in which we create experiences that we can share with each other. When people come on board to work at Clean Slate, I tell them it's not about cleaning. It's about what you're going to learn while in this lab of cleaning. How you feel when you wipe something down, if you're a day porter and you see somebody watching you. And if you feel kind of funky on the inside, what's that? Like, what's going on inside of you? Like, why do you feel the way that you do? You're awesome. Yeah, but you know, they looked at me a certain way. Okay, so what's that? Now they get to deal with themselves. Oh, I want them to know that they're awesome. That's what I talk about when I say tease up your greatness, your superpower. So you can, I remember one time one of my employees walked around with a backpack vacuum and he came out and he says, Chief, I feel like a superstar. I said, why? He's just like, look at my backpack vacuum. I chuckled with him. We're talking about a backpack vacuum, but he felt like a superstar. That's all I cared about. Creating environments where people feel awesome. You can do that when you're walking into a room by bringing your energy. I think you were talking about that. When you bring yourself to the party, when you bring your power to the party, you can shift the room, right? And even while you're there, man, it's how you feel about yourself. It's how you feel about others in the room. That can shift the room. Let's go back to the beginning of this conversation. Remember when I asked my first question? And it was kind of like, if I used that to talk to you today, how it would have been just talking, just monotone. But it's because I see you, man, and I see the powerfulness within you. I see the stories. I see all of this energy within us. I'm not going to waste this opportunity. No. And when I say I'm not going to waste it, I don't mean like me being on display. I want to tease it up within you. And even if you don't say it to me, but if you can go home and look in the mirror and see your greatness, I've done my job. I can't believe that I'm in this world with you right now just to work. That's insane. Insane to me. Anyways, what else comes to mind? With this perspective, and it may be different, right? It may be a little bit challenging to you. You may not be used to working on yourself or sitting in your own stuff or addressing your feelings. I get it. I got a friend of mine, the guy's doing $10 million. $10 million in the cleaning industry. We spoke just before Christmas, and his language to me was like, F emotions, Gerren. I gotta be disciplined. I gotta do the work. And I'm like, bro, your emotions are telling you, like, pay attention, there's something here. He's just like, no, F that, Gerren, F that. I'm gonna be disciplined. I'm like, okay, to what extent, to what end? He's like, I wanna create legacy for my family and for my kids, and da-da-da-da-da-da-da. He's telling me. And I'm like, yeah, like, that's cool. And you can do that now too, but you don't have, like, your emotions matter too, bro. And he's like, nah. And when I asked him, do you know someone who doesn't deal with emotions? He mentioned I forgot the guy's name. Some guy on social media, big time guy, does well, acquisition.com. It'll come to me, his name. But I'm like, you don't know the rest of his story. He's giving you that persona, but you don't know, and you're adopting it. Like, is that really you? And when he took a vacation with his kids this past Christmas, I saw the joy in his face, the laughter, all the pictures he took. And he says, it's been 8 years since I've been able to take a vacation with my kids. To make $10 million and not spend time with your kids. I'd rather make $1 million or $2 million and spend time with my kids. All day long. All day long. All day long. I say that over and over again because when people say to me, man, time goes fast with your kids growing up, I'm like, no, it's been slow for me. I've been seeing them a lot. Yeah. But I'm happy though, man, because I made that decision. Something has to be sacrificed. You know what I mean? I chose spending time with my kids. But I'm sharing that with you, man, because I want you to see how powerful you are. That's the reason for all of this. So that when you walk into spaces, you bring your power to the room. You don't wait for the room to dictate how you respond. You bring your power to the room. Pay attention to you, man. Pay attention to you. You're awesome. You're the greatest asset. What questions do you have for me, if any? It's going to be respectful of the time.
What are your favorite icebreakers?
My favorite icebreakers?
Walk into and you're not working.
Yeah, right? So a lot of times I look for the person who I believe is struggling the most. So if I see someone in the corner against the wall, or they have that plate of food and you can see like they're just eating, they're not looking around, I might go up next to them and mimic them. I might grab my plate of food and I just like eat. We find ourselves looking at each other, you know, just something to create that connection. Somebody talked about finding like that common ground. Yeah, if I can mimic that and create that same connection, all of a sudden they chuckle, they laugh. I'm like, yo, what you laughing at? I'm eating just like you. Why are you here? And they'll say why they're here. I'm like, this is why I'm here. Have you found anybody yet? And I'm talking, kind of like just mimicking them, right? Just so that they feel comfortable, because I recognize that they probably, this is just my belief, they probably feel uncomfortable. I could be absolutely wrong. Doesn't matter. The point was, I was trying to make connections. So that's kind of where I start. I try to mimic people. You talked about being, you know, like throwing yourself under the bus. I do that. And can I just offer, if I was looking for someone awesome, and you were the awesome connection, but you threw yourself under the bus, what am I going to do?
That probably depends on how it came across, right?
Right? Yeah. So I don't want to look at you in any way other than your awesome self. So if I start thinking about you from that joke you made where you threw yourself under the bus, that's like my first connection point. You're awesome, right? But that could be your way of kind of like navigating your nerves, your anxiousness. You'll figure out a way to do it now. Now that you realize that you're pretty awesome, right? You figure out a way. What other questions you got? Any others?
Hey, not a question. I appreciate the positivity there.
Yeah?
Dark world out there, and you're doing great. So keep
I appreciate that, man. I do. I hold every moment just sacred, man. Sacred. I wrote a book called Fast Track Your Calling. How to Fuel Your Drive with Every Assignment.
What's the title again?
Fast Track Your Calling. Right? And it was, whether or not that's the best title or not, I don't know. Something I just decided to write a book, right? But the genesis of that was, no matter where we are, no matter what we do, like, fuel your drive with this assignment. Like, this moment is the only thing that matters ever. This moment right now. And then when you go into this moment, this is the only thing that matters ever. Bring all of you to this moment, because you just never know. Sometimes people quit jobs and move to another job, but they didn't even finish their assignment from that first job. And then they go to the next job expecting to get a different result, but they didn't practice, they didn't put in the reps, whatever they needed to put in from that job. So even in these conversations, you and I talking, if it was one-on-one, I'm gonna give all of me to that moment, to that conversation. And then it's like, hey, this is us. I interviewed a guy just a couple of weeks ago. I wanted to jump back into the interviewing process. Jumped in, and the guy says to me, I asked him, why did you lose your last job? And he said, yeah, this was just last week. He said, my father died just before Christmas. I said, like 2024? He's like, yeah, he just died. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. He says, but when I got the phone call that he died, I began to scream. I'm like, at work? He's just like, yeah. And they fired you? He's like, well, I probably screamed a lot. I said, okay, all right, okay, so you're looking for work now? Yes. All right, how are you when it comes to death? He's like, I'm not in a good space. I said, well, have you thought about doing therapy? Or I know you're grieving right now. And he's just like, I haven't. Will you? I don't know. I said, but what if you find your job, you're like the best job ever, and then you find out that somebody else in your family dies? What are you gonna do? He's like, I probably won't handle it well. I said, brother, come on, like, okay. So do you want to work on you? Like, because I don't want you to mess up your next best job ever. So there's so many of us walking around here with trauma, man, that we just won't deal on the inside. I said to him, I don't know if this conversation that we're having right now, and I offered him 2 books that I've used for my trauma that I've gone through. Showed it to him on the screen. He wrote it down, found it on Amazon. I said, I don't know if this conversation was even about you getting a job with us. Maybe it was about this. He's like, you're right. You're probably right. I said, just here. Take the gift. If I was just focused on hiring an employee, that's all to be focused on. But when you're curious and you're open and you're listening to people, man, and you bring in the human element, all of a sudden everything is on the table. Everything is on the table to work through. That's what I mean when I say you are the greatest asset ever. It's not about the work. The work is just the lab that you work in so that you can see how great you are. That's all I got for you today. All right?